Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Ask yourself if what you're doing today is getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. Today is March 23rd, 2016, and this is Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio, the voice of consciousness. I am your co-host, Mark Lanehart, the Intuitive Prospector, broadcasting live today from the Emerald City, or what we call the coffee capital of the world, Seattle, Washington. And if you're up for a little spiritual prospecting, connecting with loved ones in spirit, healing, hiking, learning, growing, or transforming your spiritual journey, contact me at marklanehart.com, or you can just internet search The Intuitive Prospector. I do want to announce real quick that I have my first spiritual hike coming up of the year. It's going to be happening on April 16th. We're going to be heading out to Franklin Falls, including a lunch and guided meditation at the base of the waterfall, so something you don't want to miss. And you can get more details online at marklanehart.com or my meetup group or Facebook events. So now every Wednesday, Kim Thalken down in Encino, California, and founder of Love First, joins me as my co-host on what we like to call Wisdom Wednesday. And today's show is her last show for a couple weeks because Kim is taking a vacation, going on a nice, long, much-needed vacation, I should say, with her family on a cruise. Now, Kim, will you be working at all on this cruise, or this just all total rest and relaxation?
Well, hello there, inspired listeners. And Mark, thank you for the introduction. I was sitting here in all smiles, not knowing what you were going to say.
You never know with me.
I know. Yes, I will be taking a vacation here. We're going to be going to Disney World and also on a cruise, so very excited about that. But very much going to miss being a part of this Wisdom Wednesdays with you and our community, Mark. So I'll be looking forward to coming back and joining our team again. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to be enjoying some time away. And as Mark said, I am the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen in Encino, California. You can find me at lovefirst.info, but the work that I do is really all about raising consciousness, bringing in well-being and joy, and that's why I'm so excited about our show today as we touch on the topic of happiness. But if those things sound interesting to you, and I do this all through readings, healings, and hypnotherapy. But if that sounds interesting to you and there's a way that I can support you, I would love to hear from you. Just as Mark does, I do have a couple of upcoming events and workshops as well. On the Saturday and Sunday of May 14th and May 15th, I will be hosting a 2-day angel communication workshop. Really getting excited about that. We are a few weeks away, but it's going to be here before we know it. So if you're interested in either making that connection with your angels or strengthening it, this will be a workshop for you. It's going to be a beautiful weekend with other people who are like-minded, and it's just going to be a great time. And you can reserve your seat at lovefirst.info. Of course, Mark and I are also doing a workshop here in LA on July 16th. So please make sure to follow us on either one of our websites for further details here very shortly. So Mark, it's good to be here.
It is. I'm very happy today, and that's the theme of today's show. Is we're going to be talking all about happiness. And that workshop that we're planning, it's going to be our first one. So for all of our inspired listeners that are down in the California area, check out that event. It's going to be where Kim and I are teaching. It's called Spiritual Borders, and there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be covering. And it's a one-day workshop that you're not going to want to miss that. So as far as folks that want to interact with us live, Kim, how can they do that? How can they find us? This is an interactive live show. How do they, jump in and get on this happiness ride that we're on?
Yes. Happiness. It's happiness all the time. And that's exactly what this world needs. But you can interact with us on social media, on Facebook under Inspired Living Radio, on Twitter and Instagram under Inspired, the number 4 and us, and also Google Plus under Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. We love to get to know our Inspired community. So just let us know how you're doing. Send through any comments that you might have for us, questions, requests. We are happy to connect with you. If you've got questions for the shows and even today's show, please send through your questions on social media. You can also listen to all of our archives on OMTimes Radio, Podbean, SoundCloud, Vimeo, YouTube, iTunes, and also marklanehart.com.
Well, and I think, Kim, you've got some episodes loaded on your rebuilt site. So Kim's been working hard on getting her site redesigned, and I noticed that there's a few shows on there. So we're going to say kimthalkin.com or info as well.
Yes, you can. You're much more diligent with the updating of information on your site. I'm a lot less technical. But yes, you can find some of our archives there too at lovefirst.info. And also want to remind our listeners our inspirational quote for or affirmation for the month of March. A positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible.
I love that. And Kim, real quick, we were talking before the show, and Kim and I decided that for our inspired listeners shout out, we wanted to just take a moment to reflect and remember those that were impacted in the latest terrorist attack happening yesterday in Brussels, both at the airport and the subway station. So we just want to send love, light, and healing, and let our friends over there know that we are thinking of them, and that this stuff needs to come to an end. So again, our shout out for this show is for all of the people that have been impacted in the Brussels terrorist attacks. So Kim, let's get into some happiness. And
Let's do.
Our special guest today, we're going to be going to a break before you know it, and these shows always fly by. But I thought this was kind of fitting for today's show, so I wanted to play just a little bit of this song.
Okay.
Right? Every time you hear the song, it just makes you happy and want to dance, right?
How can you not, right? Start to move a little and smile.
Little bit of a Pharrell there from Despicable Me 2. So let's get into the details of our guest and what she's all about. So Kita Szpak is an author, happiness expert, speaker, and publicist. She has 2 honor degrees, both in education and German from Queen's University in Kingston, Canada. She's also a speaker certified from Fred Pryor Seminars and business management certificate from Queen's University School of Business. Kita has combined her entrepreneur expertise, her media relations savvy, outstanding people skills, and writing creativity to position others for personal and professional excellence. She has coordinated business and media events, book, CD launches, in addition to artist showcases nationally and internationally. And I have to say that the Happiness Road Tour is also a proud sponsor of Inspired Living Radio, and we'll be talking about the sponsorship in the second half of the show. So we're happy and proud to have partnered up with Kita and what she's doing for the Happiness Road Tour. So Kita taught at the high school level for 7 years, including 2 years of pre-college level marketing management before deciding to start her own business. She published her first child's book, You're Special Wherever You Are, at the end of 2009. Having already begun her research on happiness, Kita co-authored Tipping Point to Happiness in 2010, and she has also blogged with her column Straight Talk to Happiness, which is an in-house happiness expert on Jim Blassingame's smallbusinessadvocate.com. And she's also published online as well as being a contributor writer for Status Magazine and Working Moms Africa. Over the last 2 years, Kita presented 3 international online telesummits on the topics of happiness for parents formula, from guilt to gratitude, and happiness and success, as well as an online radio show where she interviewed over 50 experts in the areas of happiness, parenting, positive psychology, education, health, and well-being. And out of this, she has developed the Happiness Road Tour initiative, which Kita is debuting in New York City in just a few months here in May of 2016. And if you want to get on board with this tour and check it out, you can go to happinessroadtour.com. And it is our pleasure to welcome Kita to Inspired Living Radio. Welcome, Kita.
Welcome.
I'm very happy to be here. Just delighted.
Well, thanks for coming on board. We're very happy, quote unquote, to have you on board and also be a proud sponsor of Inspired Living. And how's the tour come along so far? How's the build up? And tell us more. Just kind of introduce yourself to our Inspired listeners and tell us all about the road tour.
Oh, for sure. Well, this initiative, this big idea, and we all have big ideas in our lives, and this happens to be mine, started percolating about 2 years ago. And as a publicist and as a happiness expert, I sort of wanted to put the two things together. I've worked a long time in the entertainment industry. And of course, because of my research in happiness, that's where my passion is. And I thought, well, how can I put these two directions together and come up with something, an initiative, a movement that would inspire and motivate others? And I thought, we do have happiness, motivational talks, and the like happening. But generally speaking, most of us find ourselves in a hotel room or in an auditorium, sitting in a row, taking notes, and then maybe asking questions of the speaker thereafter.
So, Kita, real quick, that's our signal to go to our first break. So we're going to be back in 2 minutes with our special guest talking all about the Happiness Road Tour here on Inspired Living with Mark and Kim on OMTimes Radio. Stick around.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting with your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and tap into that innate potential you have to transform your life and fly high. Please join me, your host Monica Goyal, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Namaste.
Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. Please visit lovefirst.info. That's lovefirst.info for more information. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel. I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim and our special guest, Happiness Expert Kita, who's here to talk to us about the Happiness Road Tour. So, Kita, before we went on break, you were talking to us about how this idea, where this inspiration came from, and you were talking about how we, normally find ourselves sitting in a hotel room or a big ballroom taking notes on this stuff. And your idea is a little different on how to experience bringing this message to the masses. So if you'd like to continue on, that would be great.
Oh, that's awesome. The big thing here is the Happiness Road Tour is meant to engage and connect people. And so as I was saying, how do I make people feel comfortable, entertained, inspired, and learning something at the same time, feeling that they're going to take something from an evening that is going to encourage them to go out and help others be healthier and happier. So I put the two elements together and said to myself, well, why don't I do this in a separate club or in a club where there's entertainment, where people feel comfortable? Perhaps they can have a glass of wine. Maybe we'll serve hors d'oeuvres, all the rest of it. And that's exactly what I came up with, that the Happiness Road Tour is going to go to multi-cities across the states. And in those places, there will be a great setting where we can bring in happiness experts, motivational speakers, authors, so that the two will meld together. How's that?
Yeah, I just love that vision that you have and what you're bringing to life here, because I read a little bit online, of course, too, about what each event would look like, and you're holding it in pretty swanky, cool places too, to just add to the ambiance there. So that alone will bring in happiness, right?
It sure will, because we know today that connection is paramount for people. And before anyone can be happy, it's really important to be able to reach out and connect, because through that connection, people are acknowledged, they're affirmed, and they find that they actually are somebody. They are unique. They are important. And that importance, that unique importance, is what is ultimately going to drive them to identify their own purpose, their own goals, their own dreams, and to be able to make a difference.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I find that in a lot of the clients that I work with too, is part of it is recognizing that their life has purpose, that they're here, that their life is purposeful. And so being able to be inspired through connection, like you said, with other people who are at the same event in a really nice setting, I could see where that would bring in a lot of joy. So are there, as a happiness expert, and I just love that, you're the first happiness expert I've met, but it's a great area to have expertise in, because it's so important, such an important part of life. And I feel like, on a spiritual level, that's most of what our guidance works with us on, is how to be happier in life and to really enjoy all that life has to offer. And so in your experience, would you say, is there a common thread that's found among happy people?
I think so, very much so, Kim. First of all, happiness, we might backtrack a little bit here and say that happiness is not an absolute. It's not something that you suddenly one day acquire and you go, okay, I'm going to be.
Kita, are you there?
what is important here is how we respond to what life is offering us. And in the response, you'll find that happy people have a number of characteristics. First of all, they're fairly resilient, and they're resilient because they're grateful. There is a form of gratitude in the fact that they're even alive, that they see their life as a gift rather than something that is an entitlement. And I think that's a big, big factor in how then one approaches life and living. Another aspect to it is simply looking around and being more of an observer than a reactor. In other words, a lot of us in our 24/7 world are reacting to things about us. And the thing is, what is important is that in responding as an observer rather than as somebody who's going to react to things around you, that makes it easier for you to stay calm and centered.
And, it's very interesting, Kita, because I also find too, and I think, a lot of people out there will agree as well, but during, especially in the U.S. right now, as we're going through this election period, a lot of people are finding it challenging to be happy with kind of what's happening right now around them. And politics and the elections and uncertainty and fear and worry and all these kinds of things that it feels like people could benefit from now, especially learning different ways on how to bring happiness in despite what's happening around them.
Yes, you're quite correct. And if you recall what we've been dedicating this show to, the Brussels happenings, yes, it is a very, very difficult time for people to feel optimistic and to feel positive. And what I would say here, Kim, is that there is the need for all of us, because we are so plugged into everything that's happening. Everything seems to be so close and so upon us, that is very, very important to take downtime, to disconnect from some of the things that are going on. In other words, taking a time out, deplugging from things, and feeling what you're feeling inside. And this can take in the form of going for a walk by yourself. It can take the form of meditating. It can take the form of praying. It can take the form of simply being quiet within yourself, because it is in that quiet that you then can hear your soul and your essence. And that essence and soul is what is trying to speak to you. And in that speaking to you, that is what is going to stabilize you. That is what is going to allow you to, as I say, be more of an observer rather than someone who gets overly involved in all the goings-on of this world.
Right. And you touched on something really important too. We're all connected through technology. And so to be able to disconnect and connect within where truth resides, that it helps you bring you back to center again, I think too. So I really like that idea of taking in quiet time so that you can hear your soul and that part of you that's connected to all that is. Kita, if everybody in the world, if more people were happy in this world, what do you think our world would look like and feel like?
That's another very good question. First of all, as we all know, we are energetic beings, and we dispense with and we have energy within us. Energy does not go away. It's somewhere. It is always there around us. And in the form of being a person, one emanates a positive or a higher energy, a higher vibration, a higher resonance. And you asked me, Kim, how it would be if everyone were happier. In strictly scientific terms, measuring that frequency and that vibration level of people being more optimistic, of having a sound attitude of looking at the better side of things, at perhaps feeling compassion for someone who has done a misdeed rather than condemning them. If these things are within our capability, then as a group, we can raise the level of vibration. We can raise the level of frequency. That is our environment. And that in and of itself can actually change the dynamics of the world.
Yes, and I love how you talk about raising the vibration from our own individual doings. So, I think a lot of people don't recognize the power that they have to have an impact. They probably, I think a lot of people just think, well, what can I do? What can I really do that's going to be impactful? I'm just one person.
Yes, there's that sense that that result has to be immediate and it has to be big. But if we just start with ourselves and our families, the people we work with, and if you help one person today, you do one act of kindness today, not only is it helping that person, Kim, but it's also helping yourself. One other aspect to being happy is the fact that when you help others be happy, you are going to be happier yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, a lot of people don't realize that when you look beyond yourself and you take the focus away from, what's going on in your world, and you go beyond that to help somebody else, there's a tremendous amount of happiness and fulfillment that comes from that. Bringing in happiness to somebody else's world. What are your thoughts on, because I'd come from the corporate world before making this transition into doing this work full time, and I saw a lot of unhappiness in the corporate world, that it can be a very toxic environment. What are your thoughts about bringing happiness into the corporate world?
First of all, the corporate world is a powerful place, and the CEO
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Vibe Nation Radio is brought to you by Carrie Turcott and Dean Thomas. Each week we bring a refreshing outlook to lifting the veils of illusion that occur in our daily lives. We will share our own learnings and personal experience that allow others to understand who they truly are.
At the end of each show, Carrie will be tapping into the listeners' energies just to give an idea of what to expect for the week ahead. So join us each Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and together we will discover the inner keys that will unlock the true you.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back to Inspired Living, and I'd like to remind you all that a Happiness Road Tour is a movement that is dedicated to spreading the happy across every major city in the U.S. The Happiness Tour first stops in New York City with an evening of inspiration, entertainment, and meaningful connection that will help spread happiness. Choose happy. Visit happinessroadtour.com to join today.
Wow,
nice
that was
job.
great. You're hired.
But we couldn't have said it better.
That's great. Thank you so much for doing that, Kita. What a nice welcome back. And before we went on to break, you were talking to us about, we were talking about happiness in the corporate world.
That's right. And certainly every setting has its challenges. Happiness in the corporate world is very much a big challenge because there are so many people involved. And when one is going to work, it's very hard sometimes to leave the tensions or issues or worries or doubts that have been going on at home and then suddenly enter the office door and leave all that behind. And I think that's the first thing to sort of remember when you are going to work, that the expectation that others are to treat you well and all the rest of that has to also be tempered by the way you are as a person and how you are behaving in the workplace. So the first thing that I would suggest is that you look at yourself, because the first person that we can change in order to make this a better world is ourselves. So if, for instance, you're coming to work and you've just had an argument with your husband, and you come into the door and you slam or you throw your bookcase down, or you are grumbling about the fact that the coffee's cold, whatever things you are doing because of a result of the type of things you've suffered before coming into work, I would ask you to sort of backtrack and try to come into the office with a clear head. Come in as if it's a brand new day and you have everything to offer to everybody else.
Very nice. And Mark was being a little naughty on the side, Mark, where you asked, is there such a thing?
Well, it almost sounded like an oxymoron. So I was just curious if you can actually find happiness in the corporate world. So,
yeah, I think there is a way. First of all, in terms of being happy, if someone is looking for others to make them happy, if someone is looking for a situation to make them happy, a better job, a new dress, a new haircut, these are all externals. And chances are there may be a short-term hit, as it were, that you feel a high. But then 5-10 minutes later, maybe a day later, the same low or the same sense of malaise starts to set in again. And you're realizing that it's not the outside stuff that makes the difference. It's whatever is happening inside of you. So that again, I underscore the fact that responding to the outside world, whether it be to your workplace or whether it be to the headlines that are in the newspaper, you are able to stay calm and centered because of what you have inside of yourself. A sense of confidence, self-esteem, a sense of appreciation, a sense of gratitude, and above all, a sense of wanting to do good, to make a difference. Because I underline that, as we said earlier, Kim, when you have purpose, the purpose generally encompasses something that is bigger and beyond yourself.
I love the synergy of what you're saying, Kita, as far as I just was watching the documentary this morning with the Dalai Lama that's narrated by Harrison Ford, and he talks exactly about what you're talking about. So the synergy in the lining up of today's message about, that happiness internal versus the external world is very, very important.
Yes, and the thing is, here, it's not a question of unplugging. We could all go and live in a cave, and that's actually what monastics did in hundreds of years ago. They went into a monastery, they went into a cave, they went out into the desert, and that is where they found what they needed to find to understand life and to understand themselves. We don't have that luxury, and I'd venture to say that the fact that you and Kim have a radio show, is in and of itself the vehicle by which you're engaging others to make a difference in this world. And the Happiness Road Tour is exactly another vehicle, excuse the pun, to engage others in the world. None of us is retiring to a room where we can stay secluded and safe and away from what the world is presenting to us today. And I think for all of us as light workers, as those who are wanting to make a difference, those who would like to spread happiness, it is our first duty, it's our stewardship of this world, is to get out there. It's just to get out there and be who we are. And through our light, just being who we are, through osmosis, we're already going to make a difference.
Participation and showing up is very important.
Yes.
And I just love your point on we have to take responsibility for our own happiness, as so many people search for that outside of themselves, and I think that's when you can run into trouble there, that it really comes from within. And so, Kita, I've got a question for you. Is there any kind of one particular characteristic or trait or something like that we should work towards that is known to maintain longer bouts of happiness so that they're not so short-lived, but that it becomes a part of our life?
I've touched on it earlier, and I'll say it again. It's likely a key ingredient of you embracing life is gratitude.
Gratitude.
The idea that, for instance, you can wake up in the morning and say, "I'm alive. I'm alive. I get to have another day." Some people may say, "Oh God, I'm alive." They may see the day with misgivings, but the fact of the matter is that our lives are gifts. And again, turning the approach around to thinking of ourselves as grateful for being on this earth, as opposed to, I am deserving of this, I am entitled to this. And I must say, our modern life, unfortunately, underscores the individual to the point where that individual is seeking that kind of entitlement and that kind of, well, I worked for 8 hours, therefore I deserve. And once that entitlement and deserving is in your mindset, then comes that whole other word called expectation. And if that word expectation looms large in your life, that there are expectations as to how I am to receive this, how my children are to act to me, what my colleague at work is supposed to do for me, then the disappointments are going to come fast and furious. And you can see what happens. There's a real disconnect because the idea of deserving is the last thing you want to do or be in terms of wanting to find, if you want to look at it that way, of being able to find happiness.
Yeah, it's the opposite of being grateful, right? What would you say are the main causes of unhappiness? Would it then just be a lack of gratitude, or are there other things that you see that are prevalent in that?
I think it's a good question as well, Kim. These are all great questions. Happiness in our society has been perceived to be something that is gratuitous and is fast and is instant. We associate positivity and good results with something that comes to us really quickly and is immediate. So let me give you an example very quickly here. If you're eating an ice cream cone, and it's a hot summer day and you have a great ice cream cone and you finish it, you're going to feel pretty good. And then within a few minutes, that feeling of high, as I mentioned earlier, is gone. With long-term happiness involves self, it involves purpose, it involves community and a connection thereof, and it also involves very, very good relationships, or the building of good relationships. In fact, that was seen as a number one keeper for those people who are feeling happy the longest period of time and from moving into old age. So that if we take gratitude, we take helping others, and we take relationships, those are the three keys.
Oh boy, that's, as Oprah would say, this is an aha moment. I'm writing it down. We'll share it on our social media. And so what about the benefits of being happy? There must be health benefits associated with that too, right?
Oh, there are. The big thing here is that I know we're taking a break in a few moments. Being happy makes you healthier, and we'll talk about this in a bit, for sure.
Great. Okay, so we are leading into our break here. This is our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more to Kita, our happiness expert, and stay with us for 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know. I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting with your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, We help you to connect with that you are and tap into that innate potential you have to transform your life and fly high. Please join me, your host Monica Goyal, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Namaste.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Special guest Kita, our happiness expert. We went right to break right when you were getting into the message of what you were going to say, Kita. So go ahead and finish that thought up. And I want to talk about your book that came out in 2014, The Simple Life, Shiny Objects Not Required.
Well, I was going to say that being happy definitely makes you feel better physically. And here's a tip I have for everybody. If you smile, for instance, just the act of smiling, first of all, you use up more calories. Smiling uses up more calories than frowning. And when you smile, you automatically release endorphins within your system, which makes you feel better. And it is a fact that as you smile, you open up your chest, your heart. And I have this acronym I wanted to share with everyone before we move on, Mark. And if you take the word smile, what does it stand for? Well, it stands for Start My Internal Love Engine. Because when you do smile, you open up your heart.
Well, and I love acronyms. I love that. And I think you use less muscles within the face smiling than you do frowning. It actually takes more muscles to actually make a frown and turn that frown upside down. So
there you go.
So let's talk. We're in the last section of the show, and it goes by really quick. So I wanted to make sure the listening audience, where can they find you? I know that you have a couple books out, so I want to point them in the right direction so they can go check out not only the Happiness Road Tour that's coming to New York City in May, but the books that you're writing. Because in last summer you did an outreach where you were interviewing both U.S. and Canadian educators, administrators, healthcare professionals on psychosocial needs. And does that play into the book, The Simple Life? Is that how the book came to be? I know it was written in 2014, but everything that you've done, it's a very interesting title to me, The Simple Life. We talked about living in caves and wanting to, as light workers, not wanting to live in caves, but really a lot of the happiness studies that they have done are with people that have really nothing and really live a simple life.
Right. Well, the shiny objects that I refer to in The Simple Life, Mark, are those things that are maybe nice to have, like a second car, or, as I say, they're literally the shiny things, but they're not crucial. They're not necessary to our way of being and living. And what has happened is people sometimes think that it is these shiny objects that will make them happy. And in my book, The Simple Life, I am espousing the fact that getting rid of some of the clutter, and I mean that figuratively and literally. So if you have junk in your garage and you want to declutter and make yourself feel better, and you will, then declutter. Get rid of some of the boxes, the old clothes, the used skates, whatever you have. Bring them to the Goodwill. Donate them. Because the act of making or cleaning up and decluttering is actually physically beneficial, and it's also psychologically beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd even say that would apply to the mind as well, because life is so fast-paced nowadays. We have so many things coming at us. Find a way to declutter your mind, as far as that's where the power of meditation is also very important in helping find that happiness. Kim had spoke earlier about, the only way out is in, and through that, whether it's physically decluttering something, your life, your household, your mind, I think that those are all gateways and doors that open you to finding that happiness path.
Absolutely. I certainly agree with you. What is really interesting here is as you self-examine, it's like a personal inventory that you do when you go into yourself. You'll find that there are aspects that you no longer need. You no longer that are no longer useful to you. For instance, you may have some habits, traditions, even beliefs that need cleaning up. Mm-hmm. Something that you did when you were 18 no longer works for you when you're 42. And yet there are people who carry around this psychological baggage. And it's very necessary to do that kind of self-inventory, which is what the Simple Life is all about. Before you can live a good life, the cleaning has to take place. And that process, Mark, can be very exhilarating. It can be very inspiring, but it's also very, very difficult sometimes because you've got to face yourself, and there are aspects of yourself that you may be facing that you're not necessarily liking. And maybe that's why some people don't want to go there.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss, right?
You bet.
Yeah, and I would throw relationships into that as well. You talked about that earlier, about how the importance of relationships, and sometimes it's time to move on from certain relationships that don't help you move forward. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yes, and the fact of the matter is those relationships too, when you build on them and you focus on them, they are the ones that will sustain you and keep you calm when challenges do arise. Mm-hmm. People who are perhaps spending a lot of time on their careers and maybe not spending as much time with their kids or maybe with their partners or with their sisters, whomever they're with, will find that after a while, that disconnect grows and grows and grows. Yep. And the career may end or change, but if you have not connected and cemented relationships in your life, in your mid-age, early age, then as you grow older, it's much more difficult. And that's why this whole aspect of loneliness enters the sphere. And loneliness right now is probably the number one problem for those mature people, seniors, mm-hmm. who then grow sick, because loneliness is a psychological state that brings on physical repercussions.
That's very interesting. And it's interesting because I opened the show with, asking yourself if what you're doing today is getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. And so it's hard to do that when you're alone or feeling lonely. So for our inspired listeners out there, if you're going to find yourself in New York City in May, please check out the Happiness Road Tour. Kita, talk about just real quick what's going to be happening in May, a little bit more details on the road tour, and where people can find more information about not only you, but also the Happiness Road Tour.
Well, the Happiness Road Tour is taking place on Thursday, May 19th. Right in Manhattan at 54 Below, which is a supper club right off Broadway. We're starting things off with a mix and mingle. Thereafter the program, there's entertainment, there's experts speaking on stage, there are raffles, prizes, as well as a gift bag for everybody who comes.
A swag bag, we like those.
That's right. And my book will be in every swag bag.
The latest book from 2014, The Simple?
That's correct. The Simple Life, Shiny Objects Not Required. So the ticket purchase really is valuable. Plus, proceeds are going to the Max Cure Foundation, which is a childhood cancer organization looking after families and children who are sick with cancer. So anyone who can be in New York that day, just go to happinessroadtour.com to visit the events section, and there you can purchase tickets, find out more about what the evening is all about. And also the Simple Life, my book, and my other books available at kitaszpak.com.
Awesome stuff. And I love that you're paying it forward with this road tour as well as helping other organizations by doing this. And I think that's very, powerful stuff. It's helping people connect, to heal, to find, to love. So, Kita, I just want to thank you so much for being our special guest and also a sponsor of Inspired Living Radio. Again, we can't do it by ourselves, and it takes a village, as I say. So, love to have you back sometime after the tour is complete in New York and talk about what's up and coming for other U.S. cities or Canada. And thanks again for being our special guest today.
Yes, thank you so much, Kita, for sharing such a wonderful message that we all need to hear.
Oh, it's been delightful, and I wish everybody great happiness.
And we wish you happiness,
much
too.
Happiness.
And any chance that you'll be coming out to the West Coast anytime soon? We need some happiness out here, too.
That's right. Well, we've been talking, haven't we? So let's see what we can do on the West Coast, whether it be in Seattle, which I think would be a great city to have a Happiness Road Tour in. Don't you think?
Well, now let's not forget Los Angeles, because we
and
need
Los
Angeles here too. Thank you so much, Kita, and for all
thank you, Kita.
that you're doing, and just a beautiful message that you're sharing.
My pleasure.
So for to hold us over until Kita gets the tour out here, just gonna play a little bit of happiness to finish off the show. And next week's show is going to be a very special show for us. Kim, you're going to be gone, so I'm riding solo on the show. But we're going to do something we've never done before on Inspired Living Radio. So if you're interested, we're going to be opening up our Skype lines to 3 lucky listeners. What you need to do right now is you need to go over and like and comment on one of our social media pages. That can be Facebook, Inspired Living Radio, Google+, Communities, Twitter, which is Inspired For Us, or Instagram, Inspired For Us. Comment that you'd like to be a guest on the show. Again, we're going to pick 3 lucky Inspired listeners to interact with me live. You can ask me questions, or you can do a reading. And next week's show, we're going to be talking about spiritual signs and synchronicities. So we're going to tie that all together. It's going to be a fun and interesting and inspiring show. So come back and join us next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And until that time, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Namaste.
Namaste.